Welcome,
Okay.
everybody, to the Hong Kong information session for Summer Abroad. We're so happy to see so many of you here today. So thanks so much for joining us. Since we're situated on the St. George campus, we wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. So, welcome everybody. In terms of the agenda of what we're going to be covering today, I'm going to provide very brief introductions to everybody who is participating in today's session. I will provide a very brief overview of summer abroad programs at U of T. Following that, we're very fortunate to have our professors who are teaching our courses this summer to individually speak about their courses. And after that, we will talk briefly about the student experience, costs, application process, next steps, and question and answer period. So in terms of introductions, we're very fortunate to have Professor Victor Falkenheim with us, who'll be teaching the EAS course, Professor Richard Guisso, who's here as well, who's we teaching with Professor Falkenheim, the EAS course, Professor Ken Derry, who will be teaching again religion, and Professor Will Kwan, who will be teaching our visual studies program. My name is Karen, and I'm the program manager of Summer Abroad. And in the back end, we have my wonderful colleague, Wendy, who will be helping out with Q&A as well as our chats, and my other colleagues, Lorraine and Wenji, who will be helping out with the background details as well. And just to let you know that the Summer Abroad is hosted and led by Woodsworth College. We're on the third floor of Woodsworth College at 119 St. George, just to give you sort of like an idea of where we are physically. However, as you know, all of our programs as well as our courses are open to all U of T students, regardless of program or campus that you belong in. So just a few points about Summer Abroad. We've been along for a long, long time, since 1972. Our first program was in Siena, Italy, and we still have a program that is based in Siena, Italy. It has grown exponentially since then. I'd like to believe that our programs have lasted this long because the model of Summer Abroad really does work. This is where you have an opportunity to earn a full Y credit in 3 to 4 weeks. In Hong Kong's case, it'll be 4 weeks. You complete a Faculty of Arts and Science course, and this does not involve any transfer credits. It goes straight to your transcript. It contributes to your CGPA and your program requirements. It also does not conflict with your regular academic year and also your summer term as well, since it's only 4 weeks. All classes, with the exception of language classes, are also taught in English. This is a chance to take a U of T course that's relevant to the location. So we always say this term living textbook, and it really is. So you'll be in lectures or seminars with your professors, but you actually get to go to field trips and take a look at what you've learned in person and in real life and be immersed in the actual content. And it's not only your field trips, you're actually going to be staying in Hong Kong. So where you live, everything that you're exposed to, the food, the culture, the language, the history, business, the politics, everything will be there. So for 4 weeks, you really get immersed with this experience, and this is what makes this program extra special. For Hong Kong, especially, all our courses are taught by U of T faculty, and they're relatively small in size. So approximately 25 to 30 students for each class. And this really does contribute to your experience to get to know your classmates, especially to really get to know your professors too. This contributes to discussion, to providing your own points of view. So again, you're not stuck in a large lecture hall. It might be a larger program in general, but in terms of learning and your specific courses, it is a small class environment. And lastly, we don't just leave you alone with your professors. We want to make sure that you're well supported. So we do hire non-academic staff to help you in terms of orienting yourself with your environment. but especially to be there for emergencies, that knows the language and can help you out if you are in trouble or if you need any kind of support or help. That's what they're there for. So accommodations, and in addition, accommodations, mandatory field trips, a lot of the details that you do worry about when you do your own personal travel, our office deals with. So not only on-site staff, but our office also hosts pre-departure orientations. We have this really detailed SharePoint site that is dedicated to the Hong Kong program to ensure that you have all the maps, all the resources that you need prior to your trip. A couple more points about summer abroad is that you become a global citizen. Now more than ever, it's really important to step out of your bubble and to really expand your worldview and understand cultural differences. Um, this is really important in terms of, really expanding your points of view, really getting to respect and appreciate different cultures. And I think now more than ever, it's really important to kind of get out of your bubble and to have experiences such as this. It boosts your self-confidence as well. One of the things I really love seeing about students is that through this point of the program to completing a program, you really do see students boost their self-confidence. And this is through travel, and this is through these types of experiences. So you gain independence, you strengthen adaptability, communications, and team building skills. And this is not just through your classes, this is even just trying to navigate yourself through Hong Kong or any other field trips. You do see more of a self-reliance of yourself through these types of experiences. You enhance your career and your academic opportunities. You will add an international perspective to your education and relate classroom and real world situations abroad. Lots of students are in close contacts with the professors years after completing this program because some students go through whether it's postgraduate studies, their masters or even their PhDs, or even just applying to new jobs. They do rely on their professors for lots of reasons, for advice, also maybe for recommendations as well. And as well, in addition to that, believe me, you create lifelong friendships. These types of programs really allows you to create lifelong friendships. We do see it all the time. And believe me that lots of people say that they met their closest friends through summer abroad programs. One thing I want to state, and this is pretty obvious, this is primarily an academic program. This is not a vacation. This is and not a travel or tourism program. You are earning a full year credit in 4 weeks. So as you imagine, this is pretty intensive and immersive. So this is not that you are responsible to know how you're going to spend your time outside of planned academic activities. Be prepared to live in an environment experienced by local students, such as one that is part of HKU. Services and facilities are not always equivalent to what you're used to in North America, and that's the whole point of our programs as well. And with any international travel, you should be prepared to adapt to local customs and standards as well. So just keep that in mind that when you do apply for any summer abroad program, this is primarily an academic program. And before we get to our professors, just general information, 2025 will be the 23rd year that we're offering our on-site Hong Kong program. However, we're so thrilled to offer it in 2025 because the last time that we offered this program was in 2019. For this year, we're offering the program from June 7th, that's when everybody checks in, to July 6th, which is exactly 4 weeks. We're offering 3 courses, and in principle, it's Monday to Thursday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. However, there will be mandatory field trips, and these field trips will lie outside of these dates and times. There are also field trips that will occur overnight, such as EAS, and you'll hear more about that as well. So please note that it's just not Monday to Thursday from 9 to 12. There is additional times and dates, and maybe Fridays that may occur based on the course that you're admitted to. We will have program activities such as orientations, walking tours, welcome and farewell dinners, and optional local trips and tours. And our program is hosted by the University of Hong Kong. So your classrooms will be there as well as accommodations. I'll talk more about this later. And again, I just want to state that the purpose of the program is primarily academic, and your experience will be similar to that of a student from Hong Kong. Now, before we get to talking about courses and me passing the baton to our professors, I just want to let you know that a lot of our information is also on our website. So if you want to refer to the course syllabus, the course descriptions, please take a look at our website to follow along. So first up, I want to invite Professor Guisso and Professor Falkenheim to talk about their course.
First of all, let me welcome all of you here and tell you as much as I can about our course, which is called Leadership and Governance in China. It's a course that we've been offering for several years, but a course in which the content changes every year. It's divided into two parts. My name, by the way, is Guisso. We'll be teaching the first part, and my old friend, and he is just as old as I am, Professor Falkenheim, will be teaching the second part. In the middle, we have a 5-day field trip, which I will talk about in just a moment. There's no prerequisite for the course, and it does, of course, cover both your humanities and social science requirements. Now, it takes place at the University of Hong Kong, which is a very, very pleasant spot on the side of a mountain. They have built a new section 4 or 5 years ago, which is very comfortable and is also nicely air conditioned, which I think you know you will need when you're in Hong Kong. As I said a minute ago, I teach the first half of the course. On the Monday, when we first arrive, we'll spend a little time in which you will introduce yourselves to each other, and we'll be divided into groups for oral presentations. This introduction is very important because, as Karen said a moment ago, you will make some friends on this during this experience. And in fact, this summer, I attended, this past summer, I should say, I attended the wedding of a couple students who met in our course several years ago. We don't guarantee that you will find a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but you will certainly make some friends. You'll spend a lot of time working on joint assignments, sitting on the buses, trains, etc. So, as I say, you will be introduced then in the very first meeting, and that will be followed probably by a tour around the University of Hong Kong, probably conducted by some students who are registered there, and that will be followed by a lunch. Once classes start, I can tell you a little bit about what I'll be teaching you, and I'm sure Professor Falkenheim will follow up on what he does. I'm going to be talking about some theories of leadership, and governance, and notions of legitimacy, how Xi Jinping and the Communist Party remain in power. We'll talk a little bit about the question of whether China is kind of a model for its governance system, particularly as we see the decline of democracy in some other parts of the world. I'll talk a little bit about what is meant by a whole process people's democracy and try to dispel some of the anti-Chinese propaganda, which is forced down your throat by American media and has been for the past while. So after a little bit of talk then about theory, I'm going to spend some time on China's tradition of governance, going right back to the days of Confucius and Mencius and Hanfeize and some of the other early philosophers. This is kind of important, particularly this year, because on January 1st, a new law came into effect in China. This is called the Patriotic Education Act. And from now on, there will be a good deal more in the Chinese educational system about China's early philosophers. So this is why I think that we need to think about this. In the second week, you will be doing some joint presentations on the period of from 1911 to 1976, the death of Mao Zedong, and I will give you some very specific directions on how that works. It's not a heavy assignment, but that will be the first component of your grades. Our grading system is still a little bit on the flexible side. We'll be discussing it with you at the beginning, and we'll probably make some modifications, which will make things a little bit different from what's on your course outline. Anyway, on the Friday after the second week, we will be leaving for a 5-day, possibly a 6-day field trip, leaving by high-speed train from Hong Kong to the capital of Jiangxi province called Nanchang. This is kind of important in historical terms when we're talking about governance. This is where the Chinese Civil War began in 1927, the Nanchang Uprising, and the first Soviet. In this course, we have, for the past, 10, 12 years that we've been offering it, we've been going to a different Chinese province every year. Our last visit, I guess, was in 2019. We went to Sichuan, spent some time in Chengdu. We saw the giant pandas, and we were fortunate enough to experience a small earthquake while we were there. Again, I can't promise an earthquake this time, but we will see some very fascinating scenery. We're going to Lushan, which was the source of Taoism in China. I think we'll spend some time in caves there. We're going to Jingdezhen, where we will see what the government has done in terms of turning this center of ceramic and porcelain production in China into not only a kind of tourist center, but into a magnet for people from all over the world who want to learn about making pots and so on. I think you'll find it kind of interesting. Jiangxi is not a wealthy province. In fact, maybe it's the poorest province in China, but this will also be part of your understanding of the governance. And I should say, finally, in regard to the field trip, that we try every year to spend some time at an elementary school, if we can, where you, as students, have a chance to teach a class of kids who are 7 or 8 or 9 years old, most of whose parents are working in Guangzhou or Jiangsu, one of the wealthier provinces next to Jiangxi, and you get a chance to interact with them and understand this phenomenon of the left behind children. So I think you'll find the field trip very interesting. We have always found it kind of interesting. And perhaps with that, I can turn it over to Professor Falkenheim, and he can tell you a little bit about what will happen in the second half of our course.
Okay, I'll like to sort of second the welcome to the program and for those of you who elect this course, welcome as well. Professor Guisso has kind of outlined the sort of structure of the course, and what I do is pick up this theme of good governance, and in fact, further develop a kind of critical discussion of this concept of whole process democracy. It just so happens that a relatively recent faculty appointment at the actually at the Faculty of Law at Hong Kong University, yeah, is a professor actually who studied at McGill and did a PhD in England, Professor Daniel Bell, who is the author of a book called the Chinese Model, and that book has been criticized, but it's a very useful point of departure for my component of the course. And it makes the case that there are three distinctive elements to the sort of the Chinese model. One of them is meritocracy at the top, and that focuses on leadership uh, uh, and particularly the quality of leadership, and a kind of a major kind of strength of the political system. And then at the intermediate levels of administration, what he sort of highlights is the way in which local governments are empowered to experiment with new policies. So it becomes a source of policy innovation, and it involves substantial public participation and consultation. And then at the base of the system, they talk about local level democratic procedures that involve, again, substantial participation by particularly at the village level, village democracy. So we look at those kind of three institutional features. Return to this larger question of how we evaluate the nature of Chinese politics today, and wrap it up and try to incorporate any of the insights and observations that you've made in the course of the field trip, which will in fact sort of illuminate some and make rather concrete some of the themes and issues that we talk about. And then there'll be a research exercise of sorts. We haven't quite defined the nature of that exercise, but it will be an important kind of component in the evaluation of your work. So that's my section. We rounded off, and hopefully if it's organized in the way it has been in the past, there'll be a year-end banquet and a chance to basically say goodbye, but also sort of celebrate the term. So with that, pass it back to Karen and other colleagues.
Thanks very much. That's great. We're so happy that you're back on board. Professor Derry, I will let you share your screen if that's okay.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well today. It's still quite chilly. It's a little colder here today than it will be in Hong Kong in June and July. So I'm teaching a course on religions in Hong Kong. So this is a course I have not taught as long as Professor Guisso and Professor Falkenheim have taught theirs, but I've done it. I started teaching this course in 2012 in Hong Kong, and it's one of my favorite things to do. This course is in some ways a little bit like what people sometimes think of as an introductory religion course. It's a kind of world religions course. The piece that's really different about this is that we do a kind of world religions introduction, but the point is to think about how the history and the culture of Hong Kong affect what it means to belong to a particular tradition. So these are the traditions we're going to be thinking about. What we'll do is we'll do a kind of quick overview of each of them. So we'll do sort of very quick, overview of Buddhism, let's say, history, main teachings, and so forth. And then we will connect all of that to how Buddhism has developed in Hong Kong. and then we will go and see some Buddhist sites in Hong Kong. So see sort of what's going on the ground and talk to some Buddhists in Hong Kong. And we'll do that for all of these different religions. So in this course, we spend a lot of time outside of the classroom. I would say probably at least half the time we are at different sites. Hong Kong, one of the things that's amazing about it is it's a very diverse city in lots of ways, and it contains all of these different traditions. I mean, it's a little bit like the sort of Southern Ontario in that respect, but in its own way. So it's quite diverse, but diverse in a very particular Hong Kong sort of way. So for example, one example of the link between the history and culture of Hong Kong and religion is the fact that the city as it exists today more or less begins with England having a war with China and winning that war, and then as a result of that, taking this territory and developing it. And so this is in the 1800s, and what that means is that a lot of people from British colonies start to come to Hong Kong, and a lot of those colonies are in South Asia. So you get a lot of people who, particularly men, specifically men, who are Muslim, who are Hindu or Sikh, coming over to Hong Kong. And it's a very different kind of history and trajectory than, let's say, the reason why there are Buddhists and Taoists in Hong Kong. They're coming through China. Another example of the link between religion and history and culture in Hong Kong is the fact that Chinese Christians in Hong Kong lead a revolt against the emperor in China at one point. And that emperor is based in part in certain Christian ideas of revolution and liberation. So that's a very specific kind of history of Christianity that's quite different from, let's say, Christianity in Ontario. So along with thinking about traditions individually, we're also going to compare them, and particularly compare them in terms of what we see when we visit the sites. And so see, these are some of the categories we're going to be using for comparison. So we're going to think about how space is used, what's the difference, and what's different and what's similar about how space is used in a Christian church versus a Buddhist temple or a Hindu temple, or in a mosque. What are the power dynamics in these different spaces, both within the communities there, but also power relationships between various religious communities and the Hong Kong government or the Chinese government? What about gender? What are the gender relations and the gender dynamics in these communities, and so forth? So we'll be looking at sort of broad ideas about religion and thinking about how to apply those ideas to these different sites, and then comparing and contrasting what we see. In terms of assessment, there are 2 short tests, each worth 15%. There's a participation grade, which I didn't list here. There's one reflection, which you can redo if you do it badly. So critical reflection on what you've learned during your time there. So this is due near the end of the program. Many students aren't used to doing reflective writing. So if you are unhappy with your reflection grade, you can redo the assignment. And then there's also a group presentation and a final project. So you will be assigned to a group at random, and each group will be randomly assigned a specific religious tradition. And then your group is responsible for doing some independent research on that tradition in Hong Kong. And what that mainly consists of is visiting a couple of sites on your own. So sites that we don't go to see as a class, and doing sort of on the ground ethnographic observations. So thinking again about things like space and gender and community and ritual and so forth. So what do you see when you go to these other Hindu temples or these other churches? So you, as a group, you will do a presentation on your research results. That presentation, sort of thinking about the question from the previous student, there you will be marked individually on how you do in that group presentation. And then there's a final group project. That's a group mark based on the project. If by the end of the course you've decided you don't like your group, you can split from them and do your own project. It still would be based on the research you did as a group, but you are welcome to submit your own project. When I've done the course in the past, I've used this assessment, and it goes quite well. Most students end up doing the project with their group. If they have differences or disagreements, they patch them up because it's certainly easier to do the project as a group than individually. But there are always a few students who, for whatever reason, kind of go off on their own and do their own final project. And sometimes that works out for them and sometimes it doesn't. So you have to make that call yourself. So that's how the assessment works. That's the basic idea of the course. As I said, we spend a lot of time outside the classroom. So I'm just going to show you a few images of some of the sites that we have seen in this course, and most of which we probably will see again this summer. Like some of the other courses, final field trip details, haven't quite been nailed down. But some of these will be pretty common. So the first one is actually the first slide that I showed. This is the very famous big seated Buddha on Lantau Island. One thing I didn't mention is that the way I've designed the field trips is that we go to many different parts of Hong Kong. So Hong Kong, as you may know, is made up of a couple of hundred islands plus Kowloon and the New Territories, which are part of the mainland of China. So we go to a few islands and we go up through both Kowloon and the New Territories. So this is on Lantau Island. So we go to see that Buddha. It's an active Buddhist monastery, but also a tourist site, and so that's interesting, just sort of by itself to see how that works. So there are a lot of shops. There's a Starbucks there, or at least there was the last few times I did the course. So I'm assuming there's still a Starbucks there, and that whole sort of commercial space is connected to the monastery. So they basically raise money for the monastery through the commercial spaces. So there's a place where you can buy Subway sandwiches. There's a chopstick store, that kind of thing. All right, so that's the course outline again. This is the largest mosque. There are a number of mosques in Hong Kong. This is the largest one in Kowloon. That's the inside of the mosque. So again, thinking about space and how space is used, this is quite different from what you would see in, let's say, a Hindu temple. So that's also in Kowloon. This is actually just half a block away from that mosque. And there we see a ritual action taking place. So again, something to think about. This is a different part of Hong Kong. This is on Hong Kong Island. This is the oldest synagogue in the city, Ohel Leah Synagogue, which is quite beautiful and really interesting in terms of its history. There are legends about during Second World War, the Japanese took over Hong Kong, and there are some legends of them using the synagogue as a stable, so keeping their horses in the synagogue, which is not usually a use that people who are religious are very comfortable with. They don't like having animals hanging around in their sacred spaces. That's part of the lore of the synagogue. Often when we visited the synagogue, someone will take us into what's called the Ark, where the sacred texts are kept. These sacred texts are super interesting. This is actually the first time, in fact, actually, I think the only time I've ever been in an Ark in a synagogue. All synagogues have them. This synagogue has more than 24 of these texts. So these are all the same texts. It's the Hebrew Bible. These are all written out by hand. They cost these days somewhere around $50,000 to make one of these texts. They're all written out by hand. And as the person's writing, if they make a mistake, the whole thing has to be scrapped. And they take years to make one of these. They're quite amazing, and they can't be touched by human skin. You're not allowed to physically touch the text, so they're kept encased. And the man there is holding this little sort of pointer that you would use if you had a text open and you wanted to sort of point to something in the text. You would use that and not your hand to point. So that's really quite a neat space to see. One of the legends of this synagogue is during the Second World War, when the Japanese took over, they apparently had heard news that the Japanese were coming, and they quickly gathered up all of these texts and hid them from the Japanese, because this is so important to them. They didn't want these texts falling into the hands of non-Jewish people who were taking over the city. This is back on Lantau Island. This is a small fishing village called Tai O, and this is a Taoist temple there. And one of the things about this image that I think is interesting is it shows how different kinds of symbols are not universal. So holding up a middle finger in a Taoist temple doesn't mean the same thing as it does in our culture. This is also in Tai-O. Often we'll take a short trip on a boat. It's quite inexpensive when we go out into the ocean, and often we have seen white dolphins, which live in the ocean there. This is up in the New Territories. This is an interesting example of religion in Hong Kong. This is actually a Christian sort of mission space. It was founded by a Norwegian man in the 1920s. And he specifically designed this, as you can see, to sort of resemble traditional or certain kinds of traditional Chinese building styles. And he specifically wanted to try to bring Christianity to Chinese Buddhists. And so he found ways to connect Christian teachings with certain kinds of Buddhist ideas about the universe and humanity and salvation. And you can see this is the symbol of the church, and it's a Christian cross, but it's sitting in a lotus, and a lotus is a common symbol in Buddhism for enlightenment. So that's a really nice example of the sort of mix of culture and history and religion. This is a Buddhist nunnery that's in the city, and this is kind of a nice space where this is also in Kowloon, where you can see the city behind the temple. So you have this space that looks in some ways kind of serene, but it's right in the heart of a very urban environment. This is a really amazing place. So this place was built just before the last time I taught this course, which was 2018. It was built by a very, very rich man who wanted to promote a certain kind of Buddhism in Hong Kong. So this is a very new temple. It's dedicated to Guan Yin, which is the statue you see in the background. And what the man did in order to, it's sort of a remote space in the New Territories. So we'll take a bus to get here. And what he did to preserve the sense of kind of serenity around the temple is he bought 3 mountains and built the temple in the middle one. So I don't know how much money it cost to buy 3 mountains, but it's a lot. It's a really highly technological temple. It's fully air conditioned, which is rare, but probably very welcome by the monks who live there. I remember seeing one of the sort of main prayer space there, or meditation space, is actually covered. The walls and the ceiling are covered with LCD screens, so they can create sort of any kind of environment within that space that they want. So they can make it look like they're sitting in a bamboo forest. They can make it look like it's a rainstorm. It's quite amazing, actually. And anyway, this is a really wonderful experience. This was kind of the highlight for me last time I taught the course. And finally, the last trip we typically do is to another island called Chung Chau. We visit just one temple on this island. A lot of what we do is just kind of hang out. Usually the students will rent bicycles and we'll kind of zip around. There are beaches there. Students will go and swim in the ocean. We will go through a cave at one point, and the cave opens out into this space here, which is really quite wonderful. And this is the temple that we see. This temple is quite famous because earlier in the spring, there's a famous kind of competition that's based at this temple where people climb a tower of buns. They do a race up this tower of buns, and they try to grab as many buns as they can as they go. And the buns are connected to certain Taoist ideas and Taoist symbols. So that's it for what I wanted to share with you. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I look forward to seeing you in Hong Kong and going on these various adventures together.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Professor Derry. Again, we're happy to have you in the lineup. And yes, and just one thing to note about the religion course is that it's the only course that will remain in Hong Kong. There's no field trips that are outside of Hong Kong. So yes, very, very well thought out field trips for sure. Last but certainly not least, I want to ask Professor Kwan to talk about his course in visual studies.
Thank you, Karen. Hello, everyone. My name is Will Kwan. I'm a professional artist. I have a studio practice here in Toronto. I make video art, installation works. I show my work in museums and galleries in North America and Europe, in Asia. I've been a full-time faculty member at U of T since 2007. I teach studio art courses in the studio art program at UTSC, University of Toronto, Scarborough. I also teach in the Master of Visual Studies program at the Daniels Faculty of Architecture at St. George. And I teach practice-based courses in video art, in sculpture, I teach foundation and thesis. I also teach thematic courses that look at the relationship between art and activism, art and globalization. I'm absolutely overjoyed, like my colleagues, that the Hong Kong program is relaunching. I've exhibited my work in Hong Kong, and some of my artworks are about Hong Kong. But Hong Kong is actually my hometown as well. So I'm really excited to be able to bring students to Hong Kong again to explore really what's one of my favorite places in the world. The course I teach in the Hong Kong program is a studio art making course. So it has prerequisites from Daniel's, the art and art history program at UTM, or the studio art program at University of Toronto Scarborough, depending on which campus you're coming from. The course is 300 level at Daniels and what we call C level at UTSC. And my course is called Urban Studio. You're seeing a slide show of images of the course that's been taught. This will be the 5th time now. We started in 2011. This course is offered every 2 years. And the course is really a course about how cities and the urban environment have influenced artists in the 20th and 21st century. And we use Hong Kong as really a truly unique case study. Hong Kong, as you probably can imagine, is one of the most thrilling places to study the city, to study architecture, urban design, social and public spaces. But Hong Kong, as you might not know, is arguably the capital of contemporary art in Asia. It is home to what's really right now the best contemporary art museum in Asia called M+. It's the location of a very important global art fair and many top-tier commercial galleries. And the local art scene is producing some of the most interesting artists in the region. So it's a really great time to study art in Hong Kong. And to get a inside view of this really dynamic art scene, we will be doing studio visits with local artists. We'll be visiting their workspaces. We will tour the major museums and galleries with curators, and we will explore all of the neighborhoods that are emerging as artist hubs where there are galleries and studios clustered together. We'll also make a trip to Shenzhen across the border into China just to get a comparative understanding by looking at another city in the area. So what we'll do is we'll explore this urban environment together. And then for your course project, you will make an artwork. You're going to figure out how to get materials and supplies. We'll figure out where local artists go to make their projects happen. We'll have a basic workspace, workroom at Hong Kong University that's dedicated to our course. It won't have shop equipment or anything that you're used to in your programs at the 3 campuses, but it will be a space where you can work and assemble things. But what you'll really learn is how to be resourceful and to sustain your creativity and your artistic process, whatever it turns out to be, in any new environment. And really, I think by the end of the course and our time in Hong Kong, I think you'll be brimming with new ideas and new artistic experiences. I'm going to let that slideshow play a little bit more, but Karen, I think that's where I'll leave it.
Perfect. Thanks very much. I won't get too much about Hong Kong, but the population has increased. It's about 7.4 million. It covers 1.104 square kilometer territory. It's the 4th most dense populated region in the world. It has a famous skyline, peaceful countryside, as you could see from the slideshows from our various courses. There are many things to see in Hong Kong, different types of, it's there's a reason why it's a very popular tourist destination. It's originally sparsely populated area of, farming and fishing villages, but now it's one of the most significant financial centers and commercial ports. It's the world's third ranked center in the world and highly developed transportation network. So, yes, I'm very impressed with the transportation network at Hong Kong. And U of T has specific strong ties with Hong Kong. We have a U of T alumni office, and every other year we also have graduation ceremonies too. So we have a very strong connection with Hong Kong. Now, in terms of the University of Hong Kong, it was established in 1911 and it's one of the oldest and largest institutions of higher learning. It's a public university with 10 faculties, and about 24% of the population is international. Has 20 residence halls and colleges, English being its main medium of instruction and assessment. Student population of undergrad students alone is about 18,000 students, and it's a reputation of attracting the best in the region. It's ranked 17 of this year's QS World University Rankings. It's very well renowned. Again, there's accessible via public transportation. So there's an actual MTR stop right at HKU. It wasn't there a couple of years ago, but it's very, very convenient in terms of commuting. So what's new about this program in 2025 is that we're going to be using the Centennial Campus, which is a newer campus. We will be sending more information once we do receive them from HKU. So program activities, and this is tentative. We're going to hopefully plan a city walking tour, residence orientation, campus tour, program orientation. So during that first Monday of classes, we're going to gather as a group, and that's where HKU is going to formally welcome us to the program. There will be welcome and farewell dinners, and we'll try to arrange some optional fun activities as well. There used to be tram parties, hiking, going up the peak, beaches, market shopping, restaurants, of course, etc. Now, in terms of accommodations, our accommodations will be at the HKU's campus residence. The price that you see on our website is for double accommodation. There will be single accommodation available. You don't request this now, but if you're admitted to the program, then we'll ask for you to consider to have the option of having single room if possible. Of course, this is based on availability, and it will cost more than a double accommodation as well. Our residences are air conditioned, and you'll be very thankful for that, especially in the summer. There's shared bathrooms amongst the two, and some HKU students will also be in residence. So these buildings are not just dedicated for U of T students. There may be some HKU students that are going to be living there as well. So residence is not mandatory. Most students do stay in residence just because of the ease of it. You could literally just walk to class. It's also for the whole experience to meet friends and to gather on campus, to have that real campus HKU experience. We do highly recommend that you stay on campus if possible. There's no meal plan for our students, but there are facilities for preparing meals, so shared kitchens. But this is Hong Kong, so there's tons of places on campus as well as outside of campus to buy food for your meals and your snacks as well. There are sports facilities at HKU, and again, more information will be provided to admitted students. This is all new territory for us in terms of the campus. So we just want to make sure that we give you the right exact information from HKU. Post-COVID, we have not offered any group flights for any of our programs, which includes Hong Kong. So students are responsible for booking your own flight to Hong Kong, although this allows you flexibility to book independently when you travel. So lots of students like going around Asia first, before or after. We will give you instructions and provide information on getting to the airport from there. Getting to the residence from the airport, although it's very straightforward. And you must arrive at the specific date and time to check in to the residence. So we're going to give you very specific information, just as long as you show up at the date and time that you're supposed to at the residence, or the first day of classes or orientation, then that's fine. That is it about in terms of getting to Hong Kong. Again, we'll give you more information once you are admitted to the program. As I mentioned at the beginning of the session, we do dedicate and take our support for students very seriously. We'll be hiring 3 on-site staff, 1 for each course, for this program. They will be available to students during regular office hours. They will also know the language too, so if you need any translation for field trips as well as during the program, that's what they're there for. They're also emergency contact. So if you need to, if you have an emergency, you're sick, you need to visit a doctor, etc., prescriptions, they're there to help you out with that as well. Although the whole point of the program is to increasingly rely on your independence, we want to make sure that you're well supported while you're there. They're also a very important liaison with HKU, our office, the residents, faculty, and for other students to ensure the success for the program. Please keep in mind, as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, that local customs and standards are different. So accommodations, whatever you're used to in Toronto, or even residences at U of T may be different at HKU or in any of our other destinations. Also, language, Cantonese, or even taking any of our field trips that are in mainland China, languages may be different as well. So obviously keep that in mind. Environment, so it's going to be hot and humid during the summer. The pollution, there may be pollution, heat, humidity, and of course a dense population. So it really is a major city. Just keep that in mind. If you have any, if you suffer from any sort of breathing problems, asthma, things like that, this is something to keep in mind while you're planning to take a program such as one in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is not flat like Toronto. There's lots of hills, there's lots of walking, it's hilly terrain. So, and it's steep. I've been to Hong Kong a couple of times. So yes, you do a lot of exercise. So please keep that in mind. Our students are there during typhoon season. Knock on wood, this hasn't been a huge problem for our program, but it is during typhoon season, and we will follow suit by the government in Hong Kong as well as Canadian affairs, global affairs, if there are any announcements while our students are in Hong Kong. And just like any travel program, if you're adventurous, independent, flexible, and adaptable, then with a sense of humor, you will do best in a program such as this one. Now, in terms of eligibility, just as long as you're not on probation, you're eligible to apply for summer abroad programs. So a minimum CGPA of 1.75. However, as you know, there are prerequisites for specific courses. So you also have to fulfill those prerequisites as well. If you're a first-year student with no final grades, you could also apply to certain courses such as religion. So that shouldn't stop you from applying to certain courses, even if you're in first year. If you are an alum, graduate study, you're from a professional faculty or a non-degree student, you could also apply using the same application. However, our priority will be for current U of T undergraduate students. And if you have any friends who are also an undergraduate student in a North American university, they could also apply as a visiting student to our courses. If so, they require a letter of permission from their host institution so they could grant the transfer credit. But they are also welcome to apply for our programs and courses as well. So as most of you know, our applications are now open. They have been open since mid-December. And for this program, they closed February 3rd at 4:00 p.m. So a $210 application fee is needed for this program. However, you could select up to 2 courses for the Hong Kong program. So for instance, you could apply for visual studies as your number 1 choice and religion as your second choice, or vice versa. It's not mandatory, but we do give you that option because there are more than one course that is offered for this program. However, if you're interested in 2 separate summer abroad programs, you're interested in Oxford, England, and you're also interested in Hong Kong, you could apply for those 2 programs. However, that is 2 separate applications, 2 separate application fees. In terms of our admission criteria, we look at your academic record. So you don't have, we already have your transcripts. So we'll specifically look at your last 12 months of study. We'll look at your relevance of the course to the applicant's program. So for instance, if you're applying to visual studies, we do take a look at the prerequisites and also any kind of additional information that you provide in terms of your academic preparation. We look at 2 personal statements through our application, and we basically just ask you why you selected this course and how this aligns with your academic and personal goals. And this also does benefit you too. It also gives you a chance to make sure that you made an informed decision of applying for a specific course and how it fits into your academic plans. Please note there's no perfect answer to these personal questions. These are personal. So basically, we want to make sure that you complete these components. A new addition to our applications is an online recorded video. So once you do pay your application fee, and submit your application, you will have a notification email from our office that will lead you to a specific unique video URL, which you will go to, and you will be answering a few questions via video, as well as a question that is text. And these are random questions that will be asked. And of course, they're not perfect answers, but we just want to know as a holistic point of view of how you would answer these specific types of questions. Again, this shouldn't scare you, and it shouldn't take you too long in terms of completing, but this is the final component that you must complete before February 3rd. There is a very detailed as well as helpful instructional video on our website. So please visit this website to give you step-by-step instructions on what to expect for the online recorded video component. And you will get an email about this today, but any students who have incomplete applications, we will also be hosting an online application blitz this Friday from 12 to 2 via Zoom. This is a chance for you to just drop in, chat with one of our advisors from our office, or also student ambassador if you want to chat to past student participants. And this is just a chance for you to ask any questions in regards to our applications process or our programs too. So those of you who have started an application, this is what it looks like. Just make sure you go through all the prompts, all the steps, pay your application fee, submit your application, and then wait for a notification with your unique video URL. And then you move forward with completing the video component of the application. So for admission decisions, we hope for this program that the decisions will be sent in late February to early March. Admissions for on-site summer abroad programs are conditional upon the Government of Canada allowing travel outside of Canada. If you do accept an offer, or we give you an offer, that's great. We will give you 1 week to confirm your participation by paying a non-refundable $1,000 deposit. If you decline an offer, you will not get your application fee back. The remaining fees for the Hong Kong program are due on April 9th. Now, in terms of costs, this is also on our website. Just note that this is split into 2 sections, and we want to be very transparent in terms of costs so you know exactly what to budget for. Fees paid to UT is done through our portal, so you pay application fee, course fee, as well as field trip fee. So it depends on what course that you're admitted to, in addition to accommodations. The only thing that is not paid directly through our portal is the U of T incidental fee. Because you're taking a U of T course, you have to take an incidental fee, and this is paid through Acorn. Additional costs are ones that you should budget for, such as airfare. So as of December 2024, this was the average price of a round trip from Toronto to Hong Kong. However, your circumstances may be different, so this figure may change. We also ask that you budget approximately 500 Canadian dollars for your meals. There's no meal plans, so actually food in Hong Kong is relatively cheap, depending on where you choose to buy your food, but please take note of that as well. You also need to purchase medical travel insurance, necessary visas, as well as miscellaneous expenses. So in terms of domestic students, the range is between $10,000 to $12,000. And if you're an international student, is between $11,000 to $13,000. So in terms of financial aid, for this program, there is quite a number of financial aid opportunities if you fit the eligibility criteria. We have one award application that is embedded in the program application. If you meet the criteria, please follow the prompts and complete the award application. When you complete this award application, you will be considered for all awards that our office administers, which includes the Stanley Ho Scholarship, as well as the Sam and Doris Lau scholarships. So again, if you complete one award application for financial aid, you'll be considered for all eligible awards that is administered by our office. Funding is open to domestic U of T students based on financial need. Should you be selected for an award, the amount will be applied towards the cost of your program. So you'll see this applied on your invoice. And awards range from $25,000 to $7,000, depending on the program. There is an amazing scholarship that is earmarked for this program, which is the Dr. Stanley Ho Scholarship, and it could be up to $6,000. So we hope to give out these scholarships for this program this year. So if you do meet the eligibility criteria, please apply for the award. You'll be considered for the Sam and Dr. Doris Lau Scholarship. For an award criteria, you must be Canadian citizen, permanent resident, or protected person, or refugee. You must be a current U of T undergraduate student. You must complete at least 4.0 U of T credits by last December 31st. Your CGPA must be at least 2.25. However, some awards, such as the Lau Award, may require a higher academic average. And this is important. You must have documented financial need. So this could include a screenshot of your OSAP statement, a bank loan, other government loans from other provinces, or even your parents' last tax assessment. Some kind of financial evidence or documentation must be uploaded in order to be assessed for these awards. We have selected merit-based awards too. We have more applications than funds available, but if granted, the value of the awards will be covered only for a portion of the costs of your summer abroad program. So this is a separate application on our portal if you want to apply for a merit-based award. So you have to complete the supplemental award application to be considered for merit-based. So you have to be a U of T undergrad student, complete at least 4.0 credits by last December, and have a CGPA of at least 2.25. But since this is a merit-based application, the higher your CGPA, the better. In terms of finances, we like to advise that students start budgeting now. Financial payments will be due on April 9th. Check with your registrar's office of your college, Faculty of Arts and Science, UTSC, UTM, and other specific departments for other travel awards or bursaries. For instance, the Faculty of Arts and Science has a Dr. David Chu Scholarship in Asia Pacific Studies, which applies for this program. So that's a different application. You have to make the initiative to find other funding within U of T, but there are awards that are available. If you do want to apply for OSAP, of course, this is a U of T course. You could also apply for OSAP, but please note that you cannot defer your fees because our payment deadlines are earlier than when you will receive funding from OSAP. We totally recommend for you to look into the IE Plus Awards that is led by the Center for International Experience. They have been very generous of giving awards to domestic and international students in the past. And we also have a video of how to finance your summer abroad, which was recorded last week. And this will give you more options of other options to fund your experience in Hong Kong. And lastly, visas and insurance. Our office will send detailed information regarding to your entry to Hong Kong, visa requirements, and supporting documents at the time of admission. So if you're admitted to the program, we will send you very specific information about next steps. Please note that if you're a Canadian citizen, as of today, you only require a passport valid for 6 months beyond return to enter Hong Kong as a visitor. However, if you have field trips, so if you're admitted to the EAS or VIS course, where you have field trips to mainland China, You also have to obtain appropriate visa as soon as possible after admission. There's visas required to enter China, and also we will guide you through that process. If you're an international student, for instance, if you're a student of Chinese citizen, you have to present your copy of your Hong Kong visa to our office by April. We want to make sure that you obtain correct documentation to enter Hong Kong twice, for instance. So if you're have a field trip in China, you want to make sure you can go back to Hong Kong after the field trip. Again, we're going to send you more information, but ultimately you are responsible to make sure that you have the necessary documents to enter countries for this program. We also want to make sure that you review terms and conditions of travel, health, and flight insurance and cancellation insurance as well. In terms of equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility resources, exploring a new country, immersing yourself in different cultures can bring unique challenges. We have an amazing section on our website that is dedicated to EDIA resources. And we also have sections that cater to specific student communities, such as the ones that are listed here. So please visit this website to get more information on how we can support students from different student communities. We also have a section on our website that is dedicated to site-specific EDIA resources. So in this case, if you're interested to read more on Hong Kong accessibility, different kinds of site content, that information is on our website too, and on most of our destinations that we do offer through Summer Abroad. So I really encourage you to take a look at these resources as well. So we're committed to the principles of equity, diversity, inclusion, accessibility. We support all participants in your study abroad experience. We aim to make sure that you participate in programs that seek fit in the learning opportunity and to maximize your potential as members of the program community. If you have any questions or concerns related to EDIA, we have an amazing program coordinator that is dedicated to EDIA, Wenji, and this is her contact information, and you could book a one-on-one appointment with her if needed. And lastly, accessibility abroad. If you require accommodations, so extra time to complete assignments, adaptive technology, barrier-free environment, etc., you should register with your accessibility service office so an accommodation plan can be put in place for the course. A letter of accommodation must be loaded to the application within 7 days after being admitted to the summer abroad program. So it's good to have this letter of accommodation top of mind. So if you are admitted to the program, you could receive this from the office right away. So you could upload it as part of your post-admission section of the application. Note that the range of accommodations may differ from different country to country, so we cannot guarantee that the sites will be available to all accommodations that are available through U of T. And we strongly encourage for you to contact our office as early as possible to discuss any sites that may best suit your needs. So if there's anything that stands out for you, especially staying in Hong Kong, and you want to talk to us before submitting your application, please set up an appointment with us as soon as possible. In terms of the timeline, as I mentioned, February 3rd is our deadline for applications. This Friday, we're going to be hosting an application blitz online, so feel free to drop in. Once you submit your application, your job is done. You just have to look for notification emails in late February, early March. And 1 week after admission notification, you have to pay a $1,000 deposit to confirm your spot. I have to backtrack. If you do receive an admission email from us, that same day you'll also receive an award notification too if you did apply for one. You pay your remaining fees in April 9th, and you attend a pre-departure orientation around May. And of course, in the summer, that's when you depart for Hong Kong. Please follow us on Instagram at U of T Abroad just to be kept up to date with our announcements and deadlines, but also to live vicariously through last summer, our students' experiences through our various programs that we offered. And that's about it. Please, book a virtual appointment with us. If you have any questions, drop into our application blitz on Friday. Join Discord so you can speak with our summer abroad ambassadors. And please feel free to email us if you have any questions, especially these next couple of weeks. Thanks very much. And hopefully we'll get to see you in Hong Kong this summer. Take care.